Simple database access in PL/SQL. Well, I say simple because there are rather more complicated methods than this, but essentially PL/SQL has its own select statement syntax, and it's not really that different to the regular select statement inside your regular SQL statements outside of PL/SQL. You also have specifics with insert, update, and delete. What are these specific things? Well, basically inside a PL/SQL procedure, it's a chunk of code that is autonomous to itself in some respects. When you run a select statement in SQL, if you remember, you go select and you select something from dual, you have to have something to plop it into. So in PL/SQL, there's no such thing as dual, which is the thing that pops the thing up on the screen at you. It's the expression result of the SQL declaration statement. So you have to have an in statement, a placeholder to plop things from select statements inside PL/SQL blocks into variables. So the select statement inside a PL/SQL block uses an into statement. Select something into variable, and after that you will get where clause, order by, group by, having, and so on and so forth, the regular select statement variations. As it says, the rest is just like regular SQL. An insert statement, and incidentally an update statement and a delete statement as well, all allow a returning clause in PL/SQL. Essentially what you're doing is you're returning values from the insert statement back into variables in PL/SQL, and it works exactly the same way with the insert statement, the update statement, and the delete statement. So whatever activity you've done with the insert or update or delete statement, you can pull the values back into PL/SQL so you can use them later on in the PL/SQL block of code. Quite simple, really, not complicated. Looks a lot more complicated than it is, but it isn't. And now let's go and look at some simple code examples of using select, insert, update, and delete statements inside PL/SQL blocks. So here's some code. Let's get rid of this first of all. And I'm going to connect to shows. I'm going to set this on, and I'm going to show you how I select something from the SQL engine and I push it into a variable, and then I'm going to output it. So let's go and connect as the shows user. Let's do this and this. It's an anonymous block I'm running here, so it's going to give me the output anyway. There are 62 acts in the database. It's actually counted the data, plopped it in the variable, and pushed it into DBMS output put line. I can pull even more than a single column, so I can say select act ID and name into two variables that note they are declared up here, and I'm also using the type modifiers in order to access the type from the act table act ID data type and name data types. Pretty simple really. So I'm going to run this anonymous block of code once again, and I get the same thing. The first act stored is 53, 2002, blah blah blah, etc. rodeo. So now what I want to demonstrate is to show you a simple, very simple use of the returning clause. And most of the examples in the rest of this chapter are going to use sequences, so I'm simply going to generate some sequences. This is a statement, a query that create sequence statements for me, and they will start at 1000, and well, let's start at 2000 just in case we have duplicated data in there. And all it's doing is going into the user tab columns and joining onto the constraints view and picking out the primary keys and ignoring the supporting act table, because the supporting act table has a composite primary key. Simple as that, but you might be able to use that. And all this is going to generate is basically a list of commands, which I could actually push into here, give you a copy of it. And then I'd go back to here and just generate these things, and it generates all the sequences. What I originally had in here was Jethro Tull. I'll put that back in there for now. And let's have a look and see what this does. I'm just going to run the procedure for now. Jethro Tull is added. What has this done? It's gone in, done an insert statement, sent back values that it added with the insert statement and plopped it into these variables that are declared against the act table columns, act ID and name. It's done another insert statement into the show table. It's inserted a show for this new act that I've just created, basically using this act ID column here, which is created up here. And then it's returned the show date, and then it's output it all in a DBMS output statement. It's pretty basic, not complicated, but it's basically showing you what you can do with the returning clause. Let's paste this into here. And as you can see, we've got show ID 2000, act ID 2000, so on and so forth. The sequence settings I set up to ridiculous numbers so that I could actually show you the data. That's fairly simple.